Want to talk about the hiring conditions right now for data science and machine learning talent. What's it like out there? Well, let me start with one number that's going to pretty much frame everything I'm going to say after this. If you go on LinkedIn right now and search for data science jobs, there are 131,000 job openings right now on just LinkedIn in the United States. 131,000. To give you just a little taste of what that feels like, it's one job posted every minute, every day for the last 3 months straight. So if you're posting a data science job, the hour after, an hour later, if you posted at 9 o'clock, by 10 o'clock, it is on the sixth page of search results. By the time dinner rolls around, it is on the 60th page of search results. So it might as well have disappeared by the end of the day. That's how crazy it is just for data science talent. Now, if you add machine learning engineers, 84,000 job openings on LinkedIn right now. Data engineers, over 100,000 job openings. The marketplace is extraordinarily competitive. And that's being driven by a number of different forces. Number one, there's already a mass rush for data science and machine learning talent. But number two, small and mid-sized businesses are now having to ramp up their digital transformation efforts. And that means they're pushing further and further into AI, which is data science and machine learning. So they have to hire talent now. Their investments, all of this money that they've put into digital transformation and robotic process automation and all these great buzzwords that they've been sold over the last decade, all of those investments now hinge on them being able to get qualified data science, machine learning, and data engineering talent. And so they are going hard and opening up jobs and paying very well for mid to high level talent. Now, on the talent side of it, I'll give you a little bit of an insight that they don't talk about a whole lot. Your top tier of data science and machine learning talent, say about your top 10 to 20% of data scientists don't have a resume. They don't. They don't put their resume out when they're looking for jobs. They don't look for jobs. They have, why would they? You get about 100 a week shuffled into your inbox. You get DMs on LinkedIn for days. There's not really an availability for that top 10 to 20%. There's no opportunity to get them because they transfer jobs rarely. And when they do transfer jobs, it's for something that someone has already approached them with and has been talking to them about for months. And it's not a recruiter. It's probably somebody in senior leadership or a very senior data scientist saying, hey, I've got this really cool thing that I think you would be amazing. Why don't you come in and work for us? And that's how that top 1/5 transfers jobs. There's no application, there's no resume, there's no interview. None of that really happens. So that top tier of talent is completely off limits to the majority of people that are hiring. The majority of that 131,000 openings, those companies don't even have access to that top tier of talent that they want so badly. Another factor that comes into play, if you're searching, if you have experience as a data scientist and you're searching for a new role, the first thing you do is go remote, search for remote roles. So I'm filtering out anything that's regional. I got to show up for an office every day. And then I'm looking and sorting by salary. So those mid-range salaries, the ones that are, in that median salary range, no one ever sees them. The people that are looking for jobs don't even see them. And so they're open 3, 6 months, sometimes 12 months. They just don't get filled. And when they finally do get filled, the company has to settle. It's no matter what they're telling you about getting top talent, the majority, and I mean a good 70% of open jobs have to settle for what's available, not what they want. And so no matter what companies are telling you, the talent that they're getting, if they're doing this sort of game, we don't know how to hire process, they're not getting top talent. They simply aren't. There is also frustration from within those companies. Senior leadership, CEOs, are starting to hear investor notes. And this is when a very large investment house will rank companies and say, this is a good company to buy. Their stock's not that expensive. I see room for growth and so on. And so they'll issue notes. And some of those notes are now saying things like they are missing their digital transformation targets. They are slow on the adoption of digital. And I see that as a headwind. That means their stock prices are impacted by their access to talent and their ability to start investing and moving forward their machine learning initiatives. That means they need people in those seats, and they need very qualified people leading those initiatives. I'd say almost half of small, mid-sized players who have a data science team are hiring for a director or VP or somewhere more senior data science leader. That's because their CEOs are not happy with the results they've been getting for the last few years out of the data science and machine learning team. They're beginning to realize they have to spend some money and they need to bring in talent. So again, that top tier is people are being brought out of that top tier and into these director, VP level roles. They're having golden handcuffs put on them. So again, all of those companies that are trying to hire, that 131,000 doesn't have access to that top most level of talent that they really, really want. And they are going to have to start hiring and training data scientists. They're going to have to start hiring straight out of college. They're going to need to start raising salaries considerably over the median in order to attract any sort of talent. They're going to have to heavily lean on H-1B visas to get foreign talent in who will work for closer to the salary range that they're offering. Those are their only levers. Those are their only options. And so right now, if you're looking for a data science role, the time's awesome, but you have to get your head out of sort of the spin cycle and the hype that a lot of companies are trying to get you to fall for. They're trying to get you to settle for a cheaper salary, to be an overworked person, to be overqualified for the role that they're putting you in. But what you're not seeing is that they don't have any other options. You are probably, if you know what you're doing, you are probably more qualified than the vast majority of people that are applying for the role. Most people are not qualified data scientists. The people that are applying are maybe mid-level data analysts who are looking to make a transition, and that's perfectly legitimate. That's a great candidate, but they're not a qualified data scientist. If you've just graduated from a program, you got about a year's worth of internship or work experience under your belt, or you have a pretty significant project that you've completed, you're probably either competitive or just a skosh more qualified than an analyst who's trying to make a move into the data science field. So you have an advantage, no matter what recruiters say, because trust me, recruiters are looking at these roles that have these median level salaries and they're not spending any time on them. They're going for that really pays well role because, well, recruiters get paid based on the salary of the person they end up recommending and who gets hired. So they can make anywhere between $25,000 and $50,000 per data scientist if they're going for those top tier roles versus making $15,000 for the roles that are going to stay open for 6 months. So if you're a recruiter, you are sending all those mid-tier, median-level roles into your automated system, and you're just ignoring those resumes. You're not paying any attention to them. So the companies that have sometimes 50, 60 recruiters working on getting these roles filled, they're not getting anyone because the recruiters aren't paying attention. They're simply getting resumes and passing them along, and the hiring managers are going, this is garbage. These people are not qualified. You're not looking at any of these candidates. And the recruiters won't spend any time on these roles. And so again, they stay open forever. And that's the reality. Hiring managers are frustrated. They need those chairs filled. They're getting pressure from senior decision makers and senior leadership who are getting pressure from investors to start moving more rapidly towards transforming their business, modernizing their business, moving towards things like robotic process automation, intelligent automation. There's a lot of these buzzwords that are along the digital transformation lines, and they're under pressure to maintain their competitive place within the market. Investors expect digital transformation and machine learning to play a big role in that. So they're under pressure to get those seats filled so that they can produce, so that they can push more product out the door. And when those roles stay open for 6 months, all of a sudden senior leadership is bringing in a different leader. They're bringing in a replacement or someone more senior who they think is going to come in and get the job done better than the person that's in the chair right now. There's pressure to hire you. And so what you really need to just kind of leave behind are all of the garbage hiring myths about, oh, it's impossible to break into data science. Oh, they're only looking for top talent. They're not. They're not looking for top talent. They're not getting top talent. They're becoming increasingly desperate. There aren't enough data scientists to fill all these roles. I did a little bit of research in end of 2019, early 2020 to try to figure out exactly how many data scientists are employed in the United States right now. And I got between 180,000 to maybe 225,000, depending upon how you classify data scientist. So think about that. 180 to 225,000 practicing working data scientists and 130,000 job openings. That means if you are in a data science role right now, you could move to another job immediately. There are almost more jobs than there are practicing data scientists. There are probably 10 times the number of open jobs as there are data scientists looking to make a move right now. The supply is much lower, not a little bit lower, not like 5 or 10%, but much lower than the demand for data science. And pressure's growing. It really is. Companies understand that their survival depends on how fast they move into the digital space. And COVID's only made that more urgent because everyone's doing everything online. With work from home, companies are not only competing to get customers against everyone globally, because a customer can do whatever they want to from their home now. We've enabled that across the board. So they're competing for customers, but they're also competing for talent against the entire country. It used to be that you could only search regionally, but now work from home is so prevalent in so many technical roles. You're competing against every company in America who offers a remote role. And the majority of data scientists don't want to go to the office on a regular basis. They're not looking for regional roles. They don't want to be confined in an office for 5 days a week anymore. We've kind of had this full taste of work from home and we all want more of it. So remote roles are definitely preferred, which means all of these companies are competing nationally. They're competing for salary. They're competing for talent against Twitter, Facebook, Google, you name it, Amazon. All of the top players in America, they're competing against them. And some of them are mid-sized businesses who, number one, don't have the name recognition to attract top talent. Number two, in many cases, they don't understand how much they really need to pay. They haven't adjusted their salaries appropriately. They don't have the same equity, the same bonus structure, the same benefits. They are so much lower in compensation than that top 5 to 10% of companies that are hiring data scientists right now. Like I said, those 90% of roles barely get looked at. And they're getting fewer and fewer and fewer views as data scientists realize, number one, they have their pick of roles. And number two, they can go to any company that they want to now because most offer some sort of hybrid or remote work. So no one's looking at these mid-tier roles, and there are so many of them open. And there are new roles emerging, things that are in machine learning engineering, data engineering, and research. And so there's not more data scientists entering. There are more roles that data scientists can expand and exit. So there are fewer data scientists total to go around because there's a variety of roles. A lot of data scientists have moved into machine learning engineering roles. It's great. That's something that we need in order to get these products out the door and to help companies make money. We need data engineers, and a lot of data scientists have also transitioned towards data engineering roles. In many cases, data engineers, machine learning engineers, and data scientists all get paid the same thing. So if the pay is no different and you enjoy the work more, of course, as an experienced data scientist with options, you're going to make the move. Research actually pays better. Some senior level machine learning engineers pay better than data science roles. There's incentive in some cases to progress into one of those tangential fields, which means that 131,000 data science roles is competing for an increasingly small pool and increasingly against other roles. So it's not just competing for data scientists, it's competing against other companies that are hiring for completely unrelated roles. So the demand isn't just for this single job title of data scientist anymore. Now the demand is five, sometimes, if you really think about it, it's about 9 roles wide. Companies that are offering those median salaries are not going to get people who are experienced. They're simply not. It's just the reality. They're not going to get the top tier talent that they claim they're holding out for. Why? They wouldn't even know who to call. They wouldn't know which recruiters to call who would have access to that top talent. They don't even know who to call to figure out who to call. And I want to make that clear. It's not that they, need to find a list or something like that. They wouldn't even know where to go find that list. They're so far away from being able to access that pool of top talent that it's for them hopeless. That 20% that they claim they're holding out for is a 20% that's off limits to them. So they're not going to get it. That's simply the reality of it. And as pressure rises, as new leadership comes in, who are more capable of doing a lot of the things that I do. I typically, when I'll hire junior level, I'll hire straight out of college because I can get somebody in that chair in 6 weeks. I can staff up sometimes upwards of 20 people. I can staff up multiple teams in about 6 to 12 weeks, whereas most companies haven't even gotten their first data scientist in the door by week 12. I can have large teams staffed up because I hire those entry level and very early career data scientists, and I just mentor them. I spend 6 months to a year walking them through an entire project. I spend time, I have now time because we're producing. I have time to bring in very senior members. I can go out and talk to people that I know. Like I said, you can get those people, but it's typically a relationship that you've built over the years. In a lot of cases, I've either worked with them or I know them through conferences or some other mechanism. I've met them. We've kept in touch. They've told me a lot about what they're interested in. And so when I have a project that they might find interesting or a role they might find interesting, I can just DM them and say, hey, I got this thing. What do you think? And so over the course of that first 6 months, I can bring in very senior level, very, very talented people, far more talented than me in most cases. And they can pick up the mentoring for me. They can pick up mid-project and really upskill those entry level and early career data scientists. And within a year, you have a very high functioning team who's producing on time with amazing quality and having an impact on the business. That's the hiring model. You just heard, I didn't send out a job requirement. I'm not one of those 131,000 jobs that are out there. I just use my network. It's way easier to hire straight out of my network than to put a job application out there or wait for a recruiter to try to figure out who and what and where. It's so much easier for me to do it. You'll find a lot of senior leaders are being brought in to do exactly what I'm talking about. Those open roles that are director, VP, and higher, they're coming in and they're washing through the team, taking out the people who really aren't very good at their job and don't want to be doing the jobs that they're doing. In many cases, that's the problem. You've got talented people. You just have talented people in the wrong place. And so it's half putting people in the right place and in the right position and setting them up to succeed. And the other half is bringing in new talent, mentoring them, and coaching the team up so that it's producing within 3 to 6 months, and it's a high functioning team within 12 to 18 months. That's the goal. Now you're producing, you're delivering, you can book business value, and you can do it a whole lot faster. So you could hear like my hiring process and the majority of these leaders who are getting brought in to improve the team and improve the cadence and the adoption of machine learning, they don't even do this 131,000 thing. That's not something that's a successful process, and most of us avoid it. That's the reality of hiring right now. The dysfunctional process, the irrational job descriptions, the salaries that don't make any sense. Are you serious? No one with 5 years of experience makes a lateral move when they have all of this other opportunity available to them. That why wouldn't you just take the higher salary? There's nothing stopping you, especially with remote. You can take a higher salary in California if you live in Arkansas. Why search regionally? So you hear it. It's just logic. It's just a pure numbers game. When we're hiring, we don't participate in that garbage because it doesn't work. It takes way too long. I can't tell somebody it's going to take me 6 months to get their first few hires in the door. They're going to fire me. And that's how every leader's looking at this. We can't participate in that. It's non-starter. There's no way you can make that work and get hired at the same time. And so we have to participate in a totally different hiring process that plays by completely different rules and gives us the ability to ramp up quickly by using talent that's readily available, highly qualified. In many cases, entry-level data scientists are only a few months away, a good 6 to 12 months of mentorship away from being a solid quality mid-level contributor. It doesn't take 3 years to 5 years to get to be a mid-level data scientist. If you have the right team around you, you have the right leadership, and you have the right mentors, those senior players that I was talking about, that it takes a little bit of time to bring in. But once they're there, the education, the upskilling happens so fast. Like I said, this is nothing to do with a typical hiring process. This has nothing to do with what you're used to us looking for in the job description. When I'm hiring, I don't care how many years of experience you have. I want to look at your projects and see what you've been able to do. I want to see that you have a business focus. I want to see that you can talk about maybe what your model could do for a business. What could your skills be brought to bear, and what problems could they solve? What can you do? What can you build? Show me that you understand what business needs. Show me that you don't just have an academic knowledge of, you have a real world capable of. You can do things, and you understand how to apply your knowledge in such a way that it creates value for the business. That's amazing. Those are the people I'm looking for. I'm looking for excellent communicators, not just but people who can go to other groups, who can sit down and build partnerships with them, who can build close relationships with them, so that, number one, that external group trusts you enough to tell you what they need, and then trusts you enough to tell you what doesn't work when you deliver a product that isn't perfect, or when they're doing that user acceptance testing and there are some things that simply don't work. They trust you enough to listen to you. And those are the types of partnerships that require listening and effective communication and persuasion skills. Those are the kind of partnerships that add business value. And you, even with a very low technical skill, can come in and be a huge contributor if you have those communication skills. And you can do that from day one. You don't need to know how to write Python at the same level as somebody with 5 years of experience to sit down with customers, understand their needs, create the documentation, and start brainstorming solutions. Things like data gathering. What data could we go out and gather? What's the level of quality of the data that we have right now? What sort of augmentation will we need to do in order to support some of the recommendations that you're making? You're not hearing a whole lot of technical. You're hearing a whole lot of business facing capabilities, things that you're going to learn in school, or if you come out of a different field where you've had to work with other business units, or maybe even been in one of those other business units, those are the kind of things that you have. And so hiring someone who's a junior level or entry level data scientist, I can figure out ways for you to contribute right away while I mentor you, while I teach you some of the more technical concepts, while I teach you more of the model architecture, more of the model development lifecycle, and eventually the research lifecycle. I can teach those, but you can still contribute from day one with things as simple as partnerships, effective communication, working with other groups to understand business needs, and then starting to look at the data and understanding exactly how much it's going to work. How feasible is it for us to implement any of the solutions that you would come up with off the top of your head? Speak with me and get some understanding of what would I try. You can present a problem to me so that I can throw out solutions to you in a 1 or 2 hour meeting. You know how much time you've saved me? Because I can just give you the, hey, check this out, try this architecture. What I want you to do for data gathering is, well, why don't you go, and I can give you a good 20 minutes worth of work from my perspective that you'll spend 2, 3, 4 days doing, and then come back to me and report the results. And you're perfectly capable of that right out of school. So if a minimum level of guidance, I can be very effective with a person who understands how to transform a business problem into a data science problem, and then present their approach to me, talk about maybe some of the roadblocks and issues that you're having, and then have me be able to come in and add value by giving you the insights that you don't already have, or teaching you about new concepts, showing you some new ways to apply a model, architect it, potentially even implement it, start doing some paired programming together, or teach you how to code it up yourself. You see, with a small investment of my time, I get a huge return from you, and you contribute from day one. So this myth that you can't get people who are straight out of college to contribute from day one is just, it's stupid. I don't understand it. I just spent the last few minutes walking you through exactly how I get tons of value out of somebody who just graduated from college. Like straight out of college, zero work experience. If you've just spent enough time to understand what business really is, what business means, and how your model and how your solution has to line up with their needs and how to make those two line up. If you understand basic data wrangling, and you can go in and do some analytical thinking to build out some creative solutions for me. And if you can take feedback and then effectively use that feedback, synthesize it, and come up with some solutions based on that feedback, you're amazing. And you're a contributor from day one. So I don't understand all the garbage hiring methodologies that are out there. I'll be honest, the majority of us that are getting hired into basically coach up these teams and accelerate the adoption of machine learning and get that ROI pump going, none of us really understand why anyone hires this way. We don't get it. And I cannot understate how many of us there are now. 4 or 5 years ago, I was pretty extremist when I would say this stuff. But now I get a lot of nodding heads, and there are people who run data science teams in massive companies who will just, yeah, that's how we hire. Yeah, that's it. But there's still this majority of companies that haven't figured it out yet, and they haven't gotten that senior leader in place for their data science team who can fix this busted process. So don't fall for it. Don't think that's normal. That's what clowns do. That's what companies that have very low levels of data science and machine learning maturity do. And that's okay. Companies struggle. I'm not knocking the company. That's what it is. Adopting new technology, trying to get talent, all that's hard. That's why I have a job. That's why I get paid. So I'm not knocking the companies that are having a hard time and need people like me. But at the same time, don't fall into thinking that that's normal. It's not. That's weird. It's broken. It's not a process you want to be involved in, and it's not a process you have to be involved in. Those companies aren't getting the top talent that they're looking for. They simply aren't. So you don't have to go into that funnel. You can find companies that hire straight out of school. They have aggressive campus recruiting. And if you don't find somebody on campus at the school that you're in, start networking with hiring managers, because you're going to start getting into the loops for people like me who are eventually going to bring you in or know somebody that needs to bring you in. So network more than you end up doing these 131,000 job applications. And if you're hiring, seriously, if you're posting jobs, really? I know Twitter and Facebook and Microsoft and everybody still uses these services to post jobs because, well, they're hiring hundreds and hundreds of data scientists. They kind of have to. But even they look at this process and say, it's ugly. I'd rather have somebody referred to me, somebody I know, or somebody who people who are working for me know that I can just hire, who's recommended, who's a known entity. And I don't have to have all of this massive, ugly hiring process in order to bring on board. Hiring managers don't want all of that overhead either. Nobody does. Everybody's on a deadline right now. Everybody's on a clock. There's there's not enough time to wait for all these people to just show up magically on your doorstep, or for recruiters to finally spend the 10 minutes looking at your job description to go, oh, so that's what they were wanting. Nobody has time for that anymore. So you're seeing hiring change. Don't don't look at that 2, 3, 4 year ago hiring mentality and think that that still applies today. It really doesn't. The majority of high performing teams aren't built that way. They're not built through the traditional resume application process. It's a whole lot more referral based. And in most cases, people are just reaching out to people they've worked with in the past or who they've met and they have contacts. They're just bringing them in because the project's interesting and they have an existing relationship with that person. That's how top talent ends up getting hired. So if you're trying to break into the field, don't fall for this. If you're trying to hire right now, good luck. Change your process. Get your head wrapped around doing something different because seriously, you can't think that in a field of 131,000 job openings where there are barely that many data scientists in a job right now today that you have any chance of standing out because you don't. You're competing nationally for all of this talent. So you don't have a chance using this busted process. And think about how much more you have to hire. Do you really want to pay a recruiter 25 to 50,000 for every head? Does that sound efficient? Wait 6 months, pay 50,000? That sounds good to you? That doesn't work. And you don't get access to that top talent that you really want. Those people that you need from a business value perspective who are going to take your program to that level that it was supposed to be at last year or to the accelerated goals that COVID's basically thrown on you. I've seen your departments. I mean, they're overworked, they're stressed, they need those new bodies. And if you're not able to give them to them, your attrition rate's going to go through the ceiling. You're going to lose, and you probably already are, losing some of your best people because everyone on your data science team has an alternative. They can immediately bounce to another job. So attrition is going to be insane as the pandemic is now winding down in the US. People are just going to leave for better opportunities for teams that are run by more capable leaders. They're going to go work on interesting projects. They're going to go work for companies that interest them and that they're more aligned with. And that's going to leave a whole lot of companies just holding an empty bag of RPA and IA and digital transformation goals. And it's an ugly place to be. So if you're hiring, don't go there. Just don't do that to yourself. It's not worth it. It's not going to end well. Increase your salaries just a little bit. And usually it's not, you don't have to add 100,000 to most salaries. Believe me, that bottom half of companies need to add 100,000 to their salaries to have any chance. But if you're paying, pretty standard, good, median, above average, above median rates, you're probably okay adding 20%, which if you think about it, that's probably what you were going to pay a recruiter anyway. Just bump that salary up. Think about different forms of compensation. Get creative. Because the way that you're compensating right now is just, come on. The way you're compensating right now is busted. Look at what other companies are doing with equity and performance bonuses and all. There are expense accounts. Companies are using expense accounts. Basically say, we'll pay for your vacation. It's an incentive. It's cool. And so be creative. Think about compensation differently. Help people with everything from moving house to getting into a school. Be smart about compensation. Be friendly about compensation because a lot of times that's really what it is. Instead of just throwing a dollar value at them, ask for their needs. What would it take? What are the things you enjoy? What could I do to make one of those things happen? And maybe at a lower cost, bring in someone. Get creative. That's huge when it comes to compensation. Talk to people at a passion level and see if there's something that you can do that's more than money to put the golden handcuffs on them and to keep them not only saying yes to your job, but also staying for the long term, staying past that 2-year horizon where most data scientists hop jobs. So think long term when you're thinking about compensation. Be creative when you're thinking about compensation. Stay out of this, submit your resume through my applicant tracking system where it's going to go into a black hole or submit it to my recruiter who isn't going to look at it. Let's be real. Just be realistic. Look at the hiring trends. Look at how other companies are getting top talent. Look at how companies are recruiting straight out of college and getting enormous value out of employees that are just graduating. They're excellent sources of talent, and they can contribute right away if you have a capable leader who knows how to use them. And most capable data science leaders do. Most of us have worked with hundreds of people that are just recent, fresh graduates, and they're awesome. There's there's no downside to hiring somebody straight out of college. I can't find one. Yeah, I get it. They don't have the same experience as somebody with 5 years of experience, but I'll be honest. A lot of times I have to retrain people with 5 years of experience anyway. I have to spend 3 months mentoring them anyway. I have to bring them up to speed on my version of best practices, teach them a modern machine learning workflow, because most companies aren't doing real data science best practices, modern data science best practices. They're not doing a modern data science workflow. It's probably some smaller abbreviated version of it where data quality, your model quality, and the research side of the phase are non-existent. Maintenance may be something that they were recently introduced to. I have to retrain people with 5 years of experience all the time. And it's typically just to get somebody who's as valuable as a new hire will be in 12 months. So yes, they are top producer after 3 months instead of 12, but think about the salary difference. I mean, it's good to have senior people. I definitely advocate hiring them, but fill in the ranks with people that you're going to mentor up and skill up, give them an opportunity, and then keep them long term, because those are people you've basically taught to do the role exactly how you want them to do the role. So keep them. Don't let them go. Don't feel like you have to hire everyone 3 to 5 years of experience, 10 plus years of experience. You'll be waiting for those people forever, and the ones you get are not going to be the ones you need. You're going to get what's left over. You're not going to get the top tier talent because your hiring process is busted. Your hiring process doesn't fit how top talent actually gets jobs. So if you're using that, you're probably not getting top talent anyway. So don't do it. Why? Why put yourself through that? Think about your hiring process in a far more modern way and save yourself some headaches. Save yourself a lot of money. You'll be advancing your projects and initiatives usually 6 months to a year faster than using that busted process. And you're nodding to the reality of there's no way that the existing talent pool that we have right now is going to meet your needs today and for the next 5 years. It's not going to happen. We need more data scientists, and data scientists are sprawling out into a wider number of roles and jobs. There's actually a career path for some data scientists now. And so the pool isn't getting bigger fast enough. If you look at all of those numbers about how much money companies are going to invest in digital transformation over the next 5 to 10 years, a lot of that's staffing. And those aren't positions they already have. Those are all new hires. There is no way we are going to train up over the next 5 years enough data scientists to meet the demand unless we start hiring straight out of college. And then you have to retain, or they're just going to leave in 2 years. So that's the new hiring process. That's what works. And so don't do this other process. Don't do that if you're hiring. And again, if you're trying to get a job, don't fall for it. Just don't fall for it. It's easier to get hired if you bypass that altogether. And you'll probably end up at a better company too.